I'm Sean Bonet.
I'm Joffre Slate.
We're so glad to be with you here today, episode 3. You feel more manly?
Already.
Do you have chest on your hair? How do you say that? Hair on your chest. Do you have hair on your chest?
I do. I have gray in my beard because playing with you was challenging.
What?
What?
Is that a compliment?
Well, I don't know. People get gray beards because,
Oh, you're trying to allude. I see what you're doing. You're trying to be like, hey, wink, I'm saying something that's weird. You're all about the story. I like it.
Yeah.
We're very thankful for our sponsors, Kepler Education. You can think of Kepler as a company that gives families power. So they empower families by connecting them with independent Christian teachers. And so everyone is getting to enjoy the free experience of education as you see fit. So go find them at kepler.education.
Free in the liberal sense, not in the monetary sense. Just adding that. Free classes? What?
Did you know? Yeah, John. I'm just not feeling the jokes.
We're off to a flying
I'm just
start.
not feeling your jokes today. Like, I want to. Like,
I warned you.
I want to laugh at your jokes.
I told Sean I was off my game before this episode. He was like, oh, no big deal. You're just going to get it. I'm not getting it.
And it stinks because, like, I want to be your assistant, but it's...
You're the one with a desk and a computer. I'm your assistant.
Oh.
Let me help you find your voice.
See, like, even that, like, I'm just not... You're going to get it. You're going to find your voice.
I'm going to get in my groove.
You're going to get there someday, kid.
Thanks.
Today, we're talking about the game Among Us. It's a hit. It's all the fad. And then we're going to dive into conversations about, lying, deception. Are games appropriate for Christians to play, especially video games? Joffre and I, in preparation for the show, played the game together with some of our friends, specifically connected through the Discord server. Plug.
Yes, join the Discord, y'all. Have some conversations with us.
And we had a great time. We're going to share a quick video with you guys now.
I'm going to go to electrical first, and Jingle will come to electrical with me. That's what he always does. Okay, 2 tasks here. Oh, wow, I just got this sweet lineup. Yeah, every time. At this point, it's a matter of stubbornness. Mr. Potato is a savage killer who just walked away from a body. I am going to vote for him. Mr. Potato, anything to say?
What do you have to say for
Well, I mean, last time someone said, hey, I didn't do it, you all killed him, so I'm gonna vote the Giant.
I'm thinking Giant. Seems like it's, they sabotage don't seem like Mr. Potato.
It's not me. It is not me.
Oh.
I saw him. Kill him.
I just don't really know how to
Listen to the
myself.
smugness. Hear how smug he is right now?
Giant again.
Come on, Higuma. Make the right choice.
I don't know. You're so eager
Vote
to...
Potato, hey, go on.
try to play.
Guma, just vote Potato.
No, don't vote Potato.
Vote Potato.
Oh, no, you fool.
You guys. You should be ashamed of yourselves. What timbre am I lacking in my voice?
He witnessed my murder, and you fools do not believe him.
My sponsors, Nike, Under Armour, Democratic Party. Thank you, everybody.
That's a yikes for me.
Oh, man.
Dude, I mean, I was the one calling the sabotages, actually.
Well, to be fair, if you're sponsored for the Democratic Party, that would make sense.
That
Because
makes
murdering and
sense.
lying about it's kind of their thing.
So Among Us, as Sean said, is this huge hit. Everybody's playing it. All of your 12-year-olds, all of your 16-year-olds want to play, and a whole lot of adults are playing.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. In fact, we played with all adults.
And we're adults.
And we're grown-ups, yes. And I had actually played Among Us several times before Sean and I got together. But Among Us is a murder mystery game. It's like mafia, like murder, like Midnight Ultimate Werewolf, if you're into geeky tabletop games.
I'm not sure I am familiar with that table.
Well, it doesn't matter. You are familiar, clearly, from how you played with the concepts of murdering people and lying about it, which is what this game is. You do that, and you try not to get found out, and everyone else is trying to find who the murderer is. It's a cartoony game, so, I mean, there is, like, you know, the little aliens get sliced in half, but it's funny and cute.
It is cute.
As far as that goes.
It's a cute, it's like, if, you know, if you can...
It's cute murder.
I don't know how to say it's cute murder. You said it, though. Yeah, it's okay. You paved the way. So I love that clip, because it shows how the game, a specific game with a room of people can take on different dynamics. This is one of the last games we played. We played multiple. And by this time, everyone had a feel of what imposters. So you've got imposters and you have crewmates. Imposters are the bad guys. They're the murderers. Crewmates are the good guys trying to find out who the imposters are and do tasks along the way. By this time, there's an ethos in our room. So when someone's the imposter, you can kind of sniff them out because of the way that they're speaking.
You say that, and that's true, except that clip is an example of when that doesn't work out. I was on the side of justice and goodness. I spoke the truth, and yet somehow the crew decided that I was lying.
The best part is I killed someone. I was the imposter. I killed someone, and Joffre was right there to see it. And I was trying to get the kill button to kill him, but there's like a refresh thing, and I didn't know about it. So I was like, oh,
Your
no.
murderous spirit. And you knew you were in trouble. You're like, I'm done. Except you weren't. You turned it around. You manipulated everybody.
I went into the room thinking, like, this is hilarious. I don't have anything to say for myself. And I was just like, you know.
You just let it ride.
I'm going to let it ride. I'm not going to say a thing.
Which actually, it's not the first time that someone playing against me has said, I'm just going to let Joffre talk. Yeah, just let the giant run. It was in another lobby, someone said that. If I'm in trouble, I'll just let the giant run. I definitely talk a lot and often too much. I'm used to getting my way.
Yes.
I'm used to being able to tell people this is how it is and having them respond. And then it backfires because everyone has an equal amount of power.
That's right. True democracy in this game.
I actually love how conversational this game is.
Yes.
You run around doing tasks and killing people, but the game itself happens when everyone's together just talking.
That's right. What I love is you came in to that discussion. Is there a formal name for that trial time?
Meeting. Just
The
meeting.
meeting time. Just very confident. You know, you're just like, all right, guys.
Yeah.
Sean's a cold-blooded
I saw
killer,
Sean
Mr.
do it.
Potato. Just clear as day, believe me. And that's the interesting thing about this game. When you go into the meeting, you're sort of living off testimony. Someone finds the body and reports it, and that's what brings everyone together. And so the one who made the report, they should have the front and center microphone. However, in the games we played, that didn't seem to be the case. You'd have someone report.
Not always, yeah.
And then all these other people start talking and asking questions about who was where and what they were doing.
And I've played in a lot of different lobbies. That looks different with every group.
Yeah.
Some groups are much more respectful of who the...
Not this group.
No.
They were way too rowdy.
Which was fun.
Yeah. And a lot of it is because we knew a lot of each other. So it was just cool to be in this new scene. And what made this moment significant for us is a game or two back, you had this situation where someone reported, and I think they were the imposter, and they didn't get voted. Well, this time, Joffre reported me, and I kind of played the like, well, I mean, I'm not even going to try to defend myself, because the last time this happened...
you're good at the game. We get it. The question at hand, though, is, and I think the mechanics of the game and how our games were, how games in the general public are, should a 12-year-old Christian, a 16-year-old Christian, a 40-year-old Christian be playing this game? I think that'll open up the opportunity to talk about games in general. You know, we want everything to take us toward God.
Yeah.
Does Among Us conduct us closer to God?
I think before we answer that question, straight up? I would say yes. Oh, I didn't. I was gonna wait.
Spoiler alert.
Dang it. I was gonna well, we have to get everything straight. We have to hear all of the evidence.
And you're like, no, I can't have it. Yes.
Oh my goodness. We just had a show on masculinity. You can't impersonate me like that.
Well, that was, okay. I'm sorry.
Or working. I'll represent you in a manly way. You represent me in a manly way.
Okay.
And then you can't sound like a little
You don't
monkey
understand
over there.
how fabulously I often behave. Yeah. So here, let me tell you how I run down the basketball court. I'm going to tell you. I'm trying
to move
from
forward
this show,
with the episode.
I'm going to distract
I'm
from
trying
this
to give
show
value
and tell you that after I make an awesome play on offense, I start running backwards on the basketball court.
I can already see it in your hips.
And exactly. And I often hold my hands like this without even thinking about it. I just let my wrist be limp.
You're so Brazilian. It's a South American thing.
Is it?
They're all South Americans.
Anything weird about me, Sean just says it's because you're Brazilian. Half the time you're right.
I know. I've got a keen sense of
Brazilianness.
I have a keen sense of ethnicity.
I don't know why you distracted us from Among Us. Let's get back on track.
I know how to stereotype people. So if you need a good stereotyper, 702-477-9090.
Wow.
I know. I'm not afraid. Goodness. Should you or your 12-year-old be playing Among Us? Well, I think we need to change should, that verb, a little bit, because when I think about someone, you should do this, there's a call for me to actually go and do it. Should you love your wife? Yes. Should you be responsible? Yes. Should you go to church? Yes.
Well, maybe a different way of saying it, using different verbiage could work. What if we said, is Among Us a good?
That's a good question. And yes, it is a good. Now, to back up where I wanted to frame this all, we have to talk about what happens in games. So games, I think I sort of organize a little bit of a definition. It's a form of play that involves competition and skill. I love the use of the word form because it has an implication that you're being almost sucked out of reality for a moment. It's what happens in a game is different than just the day-to-day reality, the task. Like you do task in a game depending on what it is. You have a goal you're trying to accomplish.
Right.
But a game is a very focused world where the mission is very narrow and there's time constraints and there's team and it's all about one-minded focus.
And forms shape the experience and take you in a certain direction.
Yeah.
I mean, sword fighting
Right.
is a thing.
Yes.
Right? I mean, well, it's not anymore, but we might have to pull a sword and battle it out on the street.
Yeah.
But a fencing class, you know what? I took German medieval fencing with a two-handed sword for a while.
So there's a style of fencing.
Right. And actually practicing that was a particular thing. The form took me in a certain direction, and the exercise of that type of fencing was in itself a thing.
Yes.
It wasn't, it was not the thing of dueling with you in the street to the death.
Right. And I think the reason I would affirm that Among Us is a good is because it fits a few categories. One, we ask, is it lawful? And one reason that it is lawful is there's nothing morally compromised about what's going on in this game.
Not even pretending to kill people.
Well, that's what we have to ask ourselves. Is it right for us to be deceptive or tricksy? Because that's what's going on. In some ways, it's a mind
Or even mean and
game.
abusive. Like, what if we played Monopoly and I did not give you a break on your rent, even though I know you'll probably starve? Right? I mean, you can be a Christian landlord, or you can be a Monopoly player.
That's right.
And are you actually doing a disservice to the game and to the other players who are Christians
If you're not being as
by playing badly?
competitive.
Right.
That's a fascinating question.
Because one of the things that happens, and I know I'm getting ahead of myself at this point, but when you are competing in anything, you have to deal with real world problems. This guy is bigger and stronger than you, and he's willing to trick you, and he's trying to do something.
Yeah.
Can you stop him? He wouldn't do that to you in real life, but in this game he will. So when you're out in the world and it's a real monster trying to get one over on you, you've run into this kind of thing before. You know that, in fact, people will break alliances and invade Alaska.
Yes. Oh, wow. some of the virtues I think are present in Among Us are community building. It's a fun game to play. There's something about you can't wait to get into the meeting room and just hear how people are going to share their experience in the past game. What was everyone doing? Who's actually the imposter? What kind of role are they going to take on? So you just get to have fun, and that's a virtue. And you also get to strengthen your strategy skills. And on a few different levels. One, you're getting to consider, what is my strategy as an imposter going to be? Am I just going to go on a killing spree?
Yeah.
Am I just going to find the first person I can, do it and run off and just as fast as I can? Or am I going to like hide out?
Right. And then to me, much more interestingly, how am I going to talk about it in the meetings?
That's the next strategy is, how are you going to cast yourself?
Yeah.
Are you going to be the quiet killer in the corner?
And so you only played one night, but when people start playing, they actually experiment with different styles. They'll play one night, they'll be much more aggressive, and just see how it works out. Although the different groups also affect that. But there was one session I played a few weeks back where I was accused of something because I was being so loud as usual.
Yeah.
So then I decided I'm going to quiet down for the rest of the night. 2 games after that, I got voted off because the guy convinced everyone that I was guilty because I was never quiet.
That's right.
And I had made the decision midstream. You know what? I'm going to be quieter, and boom.
Well, that's one of the things that other people are doing in this game is they're analyzing each other. And so they're looking for consistencies and patterns. So I would be in the same order. If you were being loud and upfront and then all of a sudden you were different, I'm going to throw sus.
I actually said that, though. I said,
I'm going to throw sus.
You got the lingo.
I got the lingo. That's another thing about games that you get in this is, I don't know how far this word sus, which is short word for suspect, or I'm unsure about, I think you're guilty. Suspect, sus. So if you go into an Among Us lobby, you're ready to. Giant's looking real sus, sounding sus. Mm-hmm. That was sus.
Joffre's always sus.
All the sus. So that's a side bit about the community aspect, is learning the language and just how people like to.
So I'd really like to move into talking about games generally and what they're for. But before we do that, I think we should actually talk about some of the mechanics of the game that can give people different experiences, and I think can affect how your kids play and even whether they should play
this game Among Us.
Right. So I've always played Among Us in a voice chat. Mm-hmm. I've never played having to actually type and read people typing, but a lot of people play it that way, particularly when they're in random lobbies. Okay? And so what you can end up with is a bunch of 12, 13, 14-year-olds, a couple of adults, who knows, because I think kids are more likely to be in random lobbies. They don't necessarily have that group of friends. They can just call up 10 people, right? Or they're part of a bigger community where they, 10 people can show up and play the game, and you all know each other and you're in a voice chat. Mm-hmm. So first of all, you have all these randoms who can be quite unsavory. The game itself is different because people won't like how it's going and they'll just leave. Or they'll get killed and they'll just leave. They'll get accused of something, they'll just leave, and it ruins the game. Yeah. But besides that, to me, the best thing about that game is what you're talking about. Analyzing, listening to people, presenting yourself, the rhetoric of, how do I appear to be truthful? Do I speak authoritatively? Do I speak conciliatorily? Right there. So you're doing all of this stuff, or you're on your phone typing away saying, I saw orange do it. And there's nothing to that.
The rhetoric level greatly diminishes.
Yeah. It's a different game completely. And I would actually say that game, I don't want my kids playing.
And I would also add, as a parent who is discerning whether it's appropriate for your children to play this game, is set certain boundaries like that. Don't enter into random lobbies. Play with your friends. And that's just good principles, because it's not quite just like entering into random chat lobbies,
right? Where
it's just kind of exchanging information about yourself. There's a focus enough in the game where nothing has to be personal, but you never know what they're going to get exposed to.
And even toxicity, right? So, gamers talk about someone being toxic.
Okay.
Right? And You can see that, and do you want your kids around that?
Yeah.
You know, and your kids will run into that. Your kids will go down to the basketball court down the street, and there will be some jerk.
Yes.
So it's fine, but it's also something that you want to be aware of and be considering the age of your kid.
That's right.
Right? Is it your 16-year-old boy? Is it your 12-year-old girl who is seeing all this nastiness being typed out or spoken? And how do you want to handle that?
And that's, you want to, what I like positively about the game, this is kind of going back to the rhetoric thing, is even with people that they know, they'll see a different side of them, which is kind of fun. You'll see them exploring, and that's why it's more precious to do it with friends, because then you can talk about Among Us when you're not playing Among Us, and then you have a connection that will strengthen your relationship.
Yep.
And even for parents, I think it'd be a good thing for your child to play with their friends, because then you can digest all of them.
And
like,
I play with my boys. Like, you know that my oldest boy always kills me in electrical.
That's right.
And it's
he called it.
But you know, you can play with your kids. It's a worthwhile game for you to play. But what you're talking about sort of brings me back to form, right? And so it's more precious, as you said, playing with your friends, but also more edifying.
Yeah.
Because one of the purposes of these simulations that games are, I brought some games, every game of whatever type it is, as physical or as intellectual as it might be, is a simulation. And although this is, I am a big believer in fun for fun's sake, joy.
Yeah.
But games also shape us, and we want to think about how they're shaping us. Yeah. When you are playing a game with your family, it should be making you holier. Right? And when you play Among Us, it should be making you holier. It should be making you better. It should be making you better able to build the kingdom of Christ. Right? And so, what you want to not control it in a negative sense, but what you want to do is encourage opportunities for whatever it is your kids are doing to build you up like that. And Among Us, given that it's so popular and we enjoyed it so much, I mean, it's a great opportunity to think, okay, well, you know what? Maybe I could even put some effort into helping my kids get some games. I could play with them. My kids are really bugging my wife to play with them. They can't wait for that to happen.
Oh, that's going to be fun.
And it's going to be, it will be so fun. Most of it will be fun because she'll be terrible. Do you hear that, Kimberly? I'm calling you out right here on the podcast. You're going to be terrible at Among Us.
Episode 3. And this goes back to our first episode when we were talking about culture building, and we emphasize it takes a lot of mental work and spiritual investment. If you are treating games like that one thing that we do or my kids do to entertain themselves and just give them downtime, and you sort of let your guard down and think, oh, it's nothing and there's nothing about truthfulness or lies going on here, that's no bueno.
No, and that actually leads to a word I absolutely hate. I hate the word pastime.
Okay.
Why are we just trying to pass the time?
Yeah, we're all about redeeming the time, right?
Ooh. So no pastimes. Games, yes. Fun for fun's sake, yes. Do we have to be measuring the utility of a game? Absolutely not. But you find yourself in a sad place if what you're trying to do is while away the hours.
That's right. And when you're playing a game or consuming or interacting with anything, one of the most fundamental questions you need to be asking is, what message is being sent to me? And is it true or is it false? In all of art, in all of rhetoric, in all of music, in all of drama, you're being presented with someone trying to persuade you or say something. And you have to ask, is this true? I was watching a little bit of Aristocats with my wife last night. And I don't watch movies or shows a lot. And it's very striking, as I've been growing in my Christian faith, and I've been growing as a critical thinker, learner, and educator, how much things there are to think about when you're watching a movie. Like, oh, they're casting this character in this way, and the interaction from this, supporting character is doing this to the plot. And what about this side thing where they're trying to be funny and, spotlight humor? Like, why are we laughing at that? Why would I find that funny? There's just so many questions to ask of the content before you. And Among Us is like that. And I think we've parsed some of the things, some of the benefits of Among Us is practice and strategy. Analyzing characters around
Practice
you.
in rhetoric.
That's right. Considering, are they telling the truth, and how do I know?
Right.
It's a fascinating.
And it's good that that it's a game where people are encouraged to lie.
Yeah.
Gasp! Right?
that-
Why is that good? Why is that Christian? Because it's that form again. It's the form of the game. The game is providing our kids and even ourselves with an opportunity to interact with enemies attempting to deceive us without it being real enemies actually trying to deceive us.
That's brilliant, because as Christians, we follow him who is the truth. And so we're not liars. But there's circumstances in which we may practice deception. Particularly, I think we forget we're in a battle. We're in a war. We're soldiers, and we're following the way of a general, of an older brother who's gone before us, dealing with enemies. Like, we are killing things in this life.
So, that's the answer to the question I was about to pose to you rhetorically, which is, is it ever okay? I don't care about the structure of a game. How could it be okay for my kid to tell a lie or to pretend to commit a murder, right? And so, the answer there, we talked a good bit about this in our Discord group. Don't forget to join. Link in the description.
Up in that server.
Is that the commandment is actually not to bear false testimony.
Yep.
Okay, so that's important. Now,
Exodus 20:16, baby.
Boom.
9th commandment. Just reference.
Just telling you
for,
guys.
for the Bereans out there.
This is a guy who didn't even go to Sunday school as a kid. What?
Well, I almost said the Babylonians, though, so I almost set myself up for failure. Faceplant, you were saying something smart.
I was. Which was to say that Satan is the father of lies. Lies are a result of the fall. But we have the clear stories in Scripture where God praises deception of God's enemies.
We have...
So deception is not in itself an evil.
Yeah. A few examples would be the Hebrew midwives in Exodus 1. So you have a decree of Pharaoh that the firstborn males should be killed. And before you have the scene where the Hebrew midwives sort of do their trickery, like, well, these Hebrew women, they just pop them out before we get in, we're just unable. You have this commentary. But the midwives feared God. So you had a request from an evil leader to do something. And then there's going to ask, did you do it? Yeah. And they're not going to participate in it because they fear God. And then you even have Rahab in Joshua 2.
Yep.
Helping
in
the
Jesus' line. That was her reward. Are you kidding?
Right. Oh. You have, in that moment, a woman helping enemies to a degree, and then lying about it. But then you have, in the New Testament, in the book of James, that being praised, and her faith being vindicated.
Right. Or we could go to the story of the Magi lying about finding Jesus.
That's right.
And one of the things, when you take a hard line about, I'm never ever going to lie or deceive, not even the enemies of God. If a Nazi knocks on my door and I have Jews in the attic, I will tell them I have Jews in the attic. But then my question would be, why do you even have Jews in the attic? That in itself is deceptive. Which is, like, if you have a problem with the Magi not reporting, then you have a problem with Joseph and Mary fleeing in the night. Because that is also deception. You're not telling everybody you're leaving. When in fact, the king wants to know.
That's right. And he's got this circumstance.
You paint yourself into a bizarre corner when you have this. What you want is from your own perspective, your own logical consistency, as opposed to taking the testimony of Scripture and dealing with that, as unsavory as it may seem to you.
Have you heard the story of Betsy Ten Boom?
Yes, I have.
Let me enlighten you on what story I'm talking about. Okay. Have you heard the story?
Yeah, I know.
That story. Yeah. So,
but this is fascinating.
The Ten Boons were at their table, and you had German soldiers come in and ask, "Are you hiding or harboring any Jews?"
Sure are.
She said, so she said, "Yeah, they're under the table," and proceeded to laugh.
Yeah.
And they looked on the table, and obviously, like, no. but they were under the table, below the floor under the table.
Right.
So, and I think her commentary is like, you should always tell the truth because God
Which is totally the wrong lesson to take from that.
That's right.
Because she lied.
Yeah.
That little, whatever, like, tone or laughter.
That's exactly it. We draw a hard line, and we find ourselves in the real world, and we ourselves deceive ourselves. We try to be tricksy with things.
We're being tricksy about lying. Like, what is that?
Or like, for instance, we can ask, like, if you're a missionary, let's say in the Middle East, and you go over, and they ask you, well, what are you doing here? Oh, I'm a fisherman.
Yeah.
Wink.
Yeah, I'm going to go to China as an English teacher. I worked at a missionary agency last year. We had all these spy gadgets for getting Bibles into countries that wouldn't allow it. And so you're telling me you're not lying?
Yeah.
You press this device and it plays folk music and they let it through, and then you press it with a certain code and it plays the Bible. That's a lie. You're lying to the enemies of God.
That's right.
But there are people behind that who don't think that they won't confront the fact that in fact they are lying. They're deceiving. And I want to mention this about the people of God. The people of God have always been deceivers and underdogs. Okay? The people of God are ankle grabbers.
Okay.
The people of God are left-handers.
Okay. That's
the people of God are women.
Oh.
And they're all tricksy.
That's right.
Right? I mean, the Old Testament tells us these stories for a reason. Be like that. Be an ankle grabber. Be a left-handed person who sneaks in and assassinates a king.
That's right.
Be a woman who lies.
And be Jesus who tells parables. Like there's something
he won't unveil them.
Oh, like just tell us plainly.
Yeah.
And that's a fascinating point where Christians, if they want to drive that hard line, they're basically taking the principle that I'm going to tell the truth, all of the facts as precisely as I can, always. And you can't take one step without falling on your face because you tripped on your own shoelaces.
Which makes for a world in which it is important not only to recognize liars, but to be able to wage war effectively.
And I would like to positively say and clear up air that can get foggy in this conversation. As Christians, we love the truth. And so we have to evaluate when is it appropriate to be deceptive or tricksy or lie, false witness, however it's framed, is like, what's the circumstance?
Yes.
Is it going to maintain peace, godly peace?
And we don't want to do this to justify, like, we said it's okay, so now I'm going to go around labeling people as the enemy of God and lying to them. Chivalry is a great virtue, right? Telling the truth, saying things to their faces. But in the same way you can have someone lie toxically, the normal way of lying, you can have people tell the truth toxically.
Right.
You people who go around just saying what they think is the truth in a very ugly fashion, offending everybody, and then saying, they're offended by the truth.
That's right.
When you do that, you're lying.
You live in a world, and the word given to us by the triune God demands wisdom and discernment for us. So we have to be contextual people. We have to be able to ask, what's the circumstance? Is it maintaining peace? Will this break godly fellowship? Does it destroy moral order? These are some of the questions that lead us. Is it appropriate to play Among Us and say, I didn't kill him?
Right.
Last time, no, guys, because there's actually a strengthening of godly fellowship.
Yes.
Of everything. Because we're having fun and we're learning and we're experiencing and exploring. We're going on this rhetorical adventure.
Right. Yeah, what a great phrase. Yes. So I would love to take an excursion right now.
Would you like to take me on a rhetorical adventure?
Yes, sir, I would.
We should continue the pickup line segment and just
that was a rhetorical adventure.
Pickup lines for
nobody was impressed with those.
I was impressed.
Yeah, I was too.
I think Rachel was.
Was she?
Probably
okay.
not.
Now, well, yeah. I mean, the only recorded testimony I have is of women who thought we were lame.
Oh.
Including my wife. So I'm glad your wife was impressed.
My wife got up in the Discord and said something about it too.
Yeah.
We've got record. So take me on your excursion.
Here's the excursion. So we have people, we've been talking about human behavior.
Yes.
Right, and how much we can learn from games. Well, guess what? People are aware of that. And there's a whole science behind gamifying things and using games and simulations to study the world.
Is it called game science?
It is.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's smart.
So there are classic things like the prisoner's dilemma, or the ultimatum, or the dictator.
I feel like you're already playing the trick, like mind
We're
game.
gonna
Like
play
I'm like
it.
watching. Is it something about the mug? Is it the way like?
So these obviously have a huge application in sociology,
Yeah.
but in a lot of other arts and sciences as well. So I never have cash in my wallet, which is just as well, because this money needed to belong to someone else. So I asked a dear friend to give me what was in their wallet. So here I have $60, three $20 bills I'm putting here. Okay, from a third party. Now, this is a very simple game. You can give me any amount of that you want, or you can keep it all yourself.
Okay.
Normally, this is played where you don't have to see me. Okay, but here I am.
So it's like so it's like stranger.
Right.
Do you keep the money or give it to a stranger?
Or give part of it to a stranger. It's up to you what you do with that money.
I will keep 120 and give you 40.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
So that's called the ultimatum. It's a sociological experiment that has been run all over the world.
Okay.
Here's a variation on it. Now, I don't have enough bills to play it with money, so we're going to go with candy.
Ooh, I love candy.
Okay? Now, I am putting 2 pieces of candy on this board.
Okay.
You can take that candy, or you can pass. If you pass, more candy will be added.
Okay.
And then I can take that pile, and it's over.
Yeah.
Or we'll add more candy. And we can go back and forth. The standard is 100 turns. We obviously won't do that. But tell me, would you like to pass or take that candy?
I will take the candy.
Boom. Wow. Just like that. Okay,
What does
I
that
like
say?
that.
What does that say about
It says
me?
you're selfish and short-sighted. You could have had all of this candy, or I could have had all of it. Instead, you get 2 pieces of candy and I get none. So destructive.
Can I give you one now?
Oh, thanks, friend.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So, a couple of things. So sociologists just go wild over this stuff, right?
Oh, can I just make a side?
Yes.
Anytime-
You didn't understand the game.
Well, I think you explained the rules, but I was thinking about what I was going to do, and so I probably missed a rule or two. And so I guess the game ends if I take all the
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Well, so my biblical...
But it's a good illustration.
My biblical principle for why I did what I did doesn't really apply there.
No. Well, so here's you were altruistic with the first one. You gave me 40 of the $60.
Yes.
You could have kept the whole thing.
Yeah.
And there would have been no repercussions.
Right.
Right. Now with the other game,
Well, I think there would have been repercussions because you're thinking about what is going to happen. Like, how will that change him now that I gave
Yes.
him? And so you have to think about the relationship to follow.
which is altruistic. So, one of the disciplines that loves game theory is evolutionary science.
Okay.
Well, then they spin out over it. I shouldn't say they love it.
Okay.
So let me read you this. Some authors have used evolutionary game theory to explain behavior in the ultimatum game, which is what we just played with the candy.
And the ultimatum game is you take, and that's the end of it, or
Yeah, whenever you take, it's the end of it. But if you don't take, the stash keeps getting bigger. So it's good for everybody, potentially.
But
Hold on, let me read this.
well, I'm just trying to understand the ultimate. I'm trying to remember the rules I wasn't listening to when you were explaining them. You said that we kind of go back and forth, and it's kind of the risk of like, what if he
If
takes
you
it
take
and I
it,
don't get
game's
any?
over.
And that's kind of the risk of like, are we gonna?
Yes, because I could take it all.
But someone's gonna lose ultimate, so it's just better because you're thinking, how rich can I get? Right. I got it.
Right,
With
so
I'm
you
with
could let it get up to 60 pieces of candy and then take it. But if you
might have
hadn't, it could have
taken-
gone up to 70.
That's right. But you might have taken it first. Okay, I'm with it.
Yeah.
I'm glad I took the 2 pieces now.
So some authors have used evolutionary game theory to explain behavior in the ultimatum game. Simple evolutionary models, so models of evolution, mathematical models, e.g. the replicator dynamics, cannot account for the evolution of fair proposals or for rejections. These authors have attempted to provide increasingly complex models to explain fair behavior. Evolutionists cannot explain fairness and justice
Oh, yeah.
at all.
Right.
So games actually destroy that because you see how people actually
They're
work.
assuming more. Oh, that's fascinating.
So let me tell you about the dictator game, where you could decide to keep it all with no repercussions, or give it all, or divide it up, whatever. It's different in different cultures, but usually there's a split. In Mongolia, it's a half and half split, regardless of the variables. Is
When
the
they
person
play this
there?
game.
Yes.
When they play this
There's
game.
something in Mongolian culture where they feel a compulsion to split it.
Okay.
Now, there's a variation of the ultimatum game where if I don't like the offer I get, I can nuke the whole thing and neither one of us gets any money.
And when people play this game, are they playing it with
It's
more
usually as a science experiment. They don't play it to have fun. Scientists say, we're going to play this game, you can keep some money maybe.
Oh, I see.
Okay? This is just game theory.
They just want to observe you as creatures.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, if you had $100 and I told you could keep whatever was still in your hand as long as I accepted your offer, right? Usually in the United States, it's around $30. If you give me $30, I'll let you keep the 70. Generally.
Okay.
But there are people who will blow it up for no reason. In Indonesia, they ran experiments for $100, which is like, so $30 is 2 weeks' wages.
Okay.
That's a lot of money.
That's right.
And there was a huge percentage of, if you offered less than $30, they would just blow it. They would not accept it, and nobody got any money. Questions of honor, who knows what.
Yeah.
But humans are complicated creatures who don't always act out of what the best interest is. And that's such a huge variable that there's no substitute for interacting with people to sharpen yourself. Iron sharpens iron. And games are a great opportunity to do that. And Among Us is a great opportunity to do that. Rhetorical excursion over, sir.
Yeah. Well, as we're unbuckling the seatbelts, a few things I would say is, as a human who is truly
You
human.
said that very awkwardly, by the way, almost alien-like. As a human,
Come on, am I saying it right, guys? Overlord? Am I being human?
anywho,
As a human, because I was being very theological and philosophically lofty. I was like, what does it mean to be a person as a human who is truly human because I Christian? You see where I'm going with this?
Yes.
I was considering how my taking of the money and giving it to you would affect our relationship.
Right.
And what it just says, what my wise plan to do with resources is, like, what kind of dominion track and strategy am I on when I take 20 and give you 40, which is a little bit different, especially if when people do this sort of game, it's to a random stranger.
Right.
Which kind of is a presupposition that is really poorly affects their control group.
Yeah.
Because that's never like that.
But that's what they want to do. They want to make mathematical models of human behavior, which, by the way, is what my dad does for a living.
Oh.
Yeah, it's very interesting, but it can't encompass human behavior.
Well, it just goes back to the limits of science.
Right.
When I teach a course on the fundamentals of music, we talk about the created order. We talk about God's world, and we talk about science as we consider the epistemology of a Christian music scholar. Like, what are we doing? What kind of materials are we engaging with? And we realize the limits of science, and a lot of them are oriented. Don't almost burn this whole table down with your little match.
I'm lighting my pipe for those of you who are just on
He
audio.
almost set to blaze that cash I just gave him. How would that affect? Yeah, do a science experiment on that. I don't even know what I was saying. Oh, the limits of science. It's all to the physical and the observable. Anytime you get into the metaphysical, science is so constricted.
Yes, which is why Christians should delight in games and conversations and hospitality and any opportunity to be around other people. And I say that as someone who would rather not be around people.
That's right. I think my concluding charges on games and video games is a little bit twofold. Christians should be playing games. And they should be playing board games that are more cerebral, and they should be playing physical games that are more physical, right?
That was a rhetorical excursion.
And now video games are in a different category. I would consider them a more serious substance than the regular board and physical game, partly because they're usually constructed in an addictive manner. There's something about the cycle that just goes on
So
and on
by serious,
and on.
you mean more dangerous.
That's right.
Okay.
It can be more harmful to you. And I think using the word substance is appropriate too. It's something that we are intaking, allowing us to shape us. So it's also a tool.
Well, a good comparison might be to like pipes and cigars on one hand and cigarettes on another.
That's right.
And maybe we don't want to go so far as to say video games are like cigarettes, but when something is built for addiction, we need to consider that.
I think a good connection would be alcohol. Except maybe the age range would vary on like at this age, now you may upload.
Are we telling people to let their 12-year-olds drink whiskey?
You know, I was actually, this is off the cuff, but if we didn't have those laws, I wonder if that would be an appropriate age for children to start drinking. Because, and it's all assuming that you're doing your job as a Christian parent and you're having these conversations because they're still in your house and giving them that freedom of
and a lot of states that
freedom.
have these unconstitutional laws, like this, the government should not be able to tell us that we can drink at 21 or 18. But even conceding that, a lot of states actually specifically say in their codes about this that it has no effect in the home. That if you're at home and with your parents, that you can drink, which the state doesn't have the right to say that either. But it's a recognition of the reality of family culture,
which is brilliant. So. One issue one practical thing that you should watch out for in video games is the addictive nature. I would recommend as you or your child begins to play, have a structure in which that they can be drawn away. When we played for like 2 hours almost. And there was no structure on which we were going to stop playing, just kind of when we all felt like it. And in this circumstance was different because we were trying to give me just a great experience, a lot of...
Also, we're grown-ups.
Yes.
Although some grown-ups do struggle with that.
That's right.
There are people addicted to video games.
But at some point in the night, someone had to lead like, okay, guys, I'm done, and eventually everyone stopped. Well, if that just goes on and everyone's like, oh, just one more. And it's like that with alcohol.
And certain games are more conducive to that. For example, first-person shooters, I wouldn't recommend those for kids. And really, I mean, for anyone, we're starting to talk about that wicked word pastime again. Like, how does a first-person shooter make you better? And I wouldn't say that about all first-person shooters, but when you're twitching around, and I mean, like, is developing your reflexes, that much of a good in itself? What are you actually learning? And I don't want to be utilitarian. I mean, fun for fun's sake is fine. Listen to Van Halen if you want to, okay? Play a first-person shooter if you want to. But if that's all you're doing, if you only listen to Van Halen and you only play first-person shooters, you're not doing yourself any good.
And there's a question we can ask that will help us in the discerning process.
What's that?
How is this investment shaping us? Time, resource investment. If you want to play a first-person shooter game, you're probably going to have to buy the game. And those can be, a few nice meals out that you could take someone on a date with or your wife. So you have to kind of consider that budget-wise. And then you consider the time it takes to play it. Like how many times are you going to play it in a week? How long is that going to be? And then when you're in that game, what is it actually doing for you? And how is it strengthening you? How is it strengthening your family? How is it strengthening your church?
And are you having fun or are you distracting yourself?
Right. Are you running from something? Are you procrastinating?
Right.
Is there a chore that's pending?
And not very many people procrastinate or run from something by playing Scrabble.
People procrastinate from playing Scrabble. You've got a mom who's like,
what? Scrabble is the very best, dude.
Oh no, I'm sure there's many kids out there and their mom is like, Friday is Scrabble night. And they're like, okay, it's 7:00, kids. Well, can I just finish cleaning my room real quick?
That wasn't me. Listeners should know that I brought in like a dozen tabletop games.
Can I go do my homework?
Let me tell you what one of my greatest triumphs in high school was Scrabble. beginning to beat my mom consistently.
Okay.
And like I knew I had become a man at that point. It's like I
your
could find those little 2-letter words. No, it's all about the 2-letter words.
Oh.
It's all about that tile placement.
You're that kind of Scrabble
Yeah,
player.
yeah.
So as you're learning about Among Us and discerning if it's something that you or your family is going to engage with, I'm not a big video game guy personally. So I'm not going to be, by my own initiative, seek out video games for me and my friends to play. Now, I could see myself playing Among Us again.
In fact, don't lie. You asked to play Among Us again today.
That's right, I did. I was like, can we play that soon? So I'm not a big video game guy, so I wouldn't say it's something that you should do. Like, I think you should be musically literate or have your kids in music lessons. That's something they should do. They should play a sport. But playing a video game or Among Us, I think, gets into those many goods we have in this world that can positively impact us if we approach it rightly. Right? We have to remember we are bringing ourselves to it, and so we have to come at it in a holy manner. But it's a good, and you should find a good group, because if you get the right group together, it's a fun game.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's very likely that a lot of our listeners have allowed their kids to play the game or have kids bugging them to let them play the game.
Yeah.
And so I would say, let them, even encourage it. If it's structured the right way. No random lobbies.
Yep.
I would love to talk in Discord further about that. Not just in Among Us, but elsewhere. The random lobby effect. Our kids out there talking to people who can treat them with no repercussions certain ways. Like in these simulations that we ran with the ultimatum scenario, right? Where there's some guy in another room that I will never see, and I can give him money or not, or I can screw him over or not.
Yeah.
I can cause this guy to walk away empty-handed. Well, guess what? Those people are trolls.
Yeah.
And they're out there, and our kids are out there. I'd love to talk about that in the Discord. But meanwhile, keep your kids away from the trolls and Among Us. Let them play with their friends, though. And it's better with voice chat. Way better. Way better. Don't even bother playing, having to just type it out.
Yeah, that's for sure. So thank you guys for tuning in. We didn't talk about our sign-off, but I think the sign-off is going to be something like this. What's it going to be? Put your hand on the plow and seek that potato. Plow, right?
That sounds okay.
Put your hand on the plow and seek that potato.
We're going to find you that.
We'll see you guys next week.
Cheers.